episode of the Fortress of Filitude. In today's episode, I'm going to do a simple craft with some cheap styrofoam, and I kind of like the results for something so basic. Mainly, it's this alien pyramid done up with some packing foam from, I don't remember if it was a piece of furniture or an appliance, and from the cut-off pieces, I also made some modular sci-fi themed walls. Now the alien pyramid, you can see I painted it up sort of metallic scheme. Just did some basic colors, basic dry brush, and then just some basic weathering powders. And there is a funny story with the weathering powder that I'll tell you about. What was at first sort of an accident and a bad decision ended up working well for this project. Simple craft. I used a Proxxon hot wire foam cutter. You could use a really sharp hobby knife, but come with me and I'll show you how I made them. So you can see I had a pretty large sheet of styrofoam to work with, and as soon as I saw it I thought, I can make a pyramid out of that, but it's not going to look like a traditional step pyramid that you'd see in a fantasy world. It's got a sci-fi look to it. But you could easily use this in, I don't know, any type of a setting, fantasy or sci-fi. You can see I was putting the different basic sections together, just making some straight cuts. Some of it, I didn't exactly have real straight cuts. You'll see later I did use some spackle to fill in some of the more egregious gaps. But I thought I had a good scale. I thought it looked good for a sci-fi game. You know, you can use this in a Legion game or a Warhammer. You know, it can be an objective. It can be something that sits in the center of the board that, you know, blocks line of sight and forces armies and units to kind of move around and maneuver. And for a fantasy game, it can just be a backdrop for an outdoor encounter. You know, maybe the whole thing's a puzzle and the players have to figure out how to get inside of it. As you can see, I did the black Mod Podge on it just to protect it, because I did use a spray can color, metallic gray, and then I did a dry brush in a copper color. You know, I wanted to make it look like it was just some weird alloy. So I wanted to use some weathering powders on it to just put a little more detail. And originally I had bought some weathering powder. I thought I was going to get a cheap alternative to the Vallejo type, and I didn't pay real close attention. As you can see, I got a brown sugar, which is a cosmetic grade powder. It's got quite a sparkle to it. Now at first I thought, man, what am I going to do with this? This isn't going to work. And then I thought about this project, and I thought, well, hey, that's perfect for something metallic. So that's what I did. I used it on this pyramid. I also bought some black that's got some silvery sparkle to it. Might be able to use that for machinery or engines or some other kind of metallic stuff in the future. So one way or another, I'll still get use out of those. But I did use the brown sugar for this one. So just using a soft brush, I dipped it in the powder and started applying it. Trying to go around the edges, the corners. It worked pretty well. I was pretty happy with it. I did notice that using something with what's, I guess, essentially glitter in it, you do really see how much that powder goes and kind of scatters across your work surface. It was kind of a pain to clean up because it kind of went everywhere. And of course I had it on my hands and on some of my tools, and, you know, looked like I'd been at a strip club. But it, you know, warm water and some paper towels, and it cleaned up nicely. But I do like the effect on the pyramid. I thought it turned out pretty nice. It was just an extra little touch for something that's so basic of a project. I mean, that grade of styrofoam, you've already got all that texture showing that's not smooth, and of course you've got different seams and crevices, and, you know, it's not perfect, but for something that's going to be sitting on the table at arm's length, it looks fine. You notice I didn't fill in the gaps there in between the layers, between that first and second layer on the pyramid, and there's a reason for that. You'll see a little bit later why I did it that way. So I just went around the whole surface of the pyramid, kind of hitting the same kind of areas all the way around. And once I was done with that, you know, you want to do something that will hold it in place. So yeah, I used some alcohol just as a fixative to kind of hold it in place until I could spray it with a matte sealer so it wouldn't wipe off and end up everywhere it wasn't supposed to be. So you see on that side you can't see it as well, but here on this side it shows up a little bit better, and on the other side as well. It's just kind of a subtle effect. It just adds a little more detail to something that's just, like I said, pretty basic otherwise. And if I ever want to detail that thing further, I can always use scatter terrain or other, I don't know, bits and pieces of greebles and what have you, just to temporarily modify it. So yeah, I had all these little cut-off pieces, and I thought, oh, why not make some just make some basic walls with them. Cuts on the corners weren't exactly perfect, but I wasn't too worried about that. But I cut up a big mess of those, and even used some of the smaller pieces to try and make these airlocks. And of course the black Mod Podge to protect it all, because I did end up just spraying it with just a slightly glossy gray. I don't remember the exact name of the color, but it's just a basic gray. I figured that would be the most generic color to use. You know, if I'm going to use this for Star Wars, whether it's Legion or the role-playing game, or if you're going to use it for Starfinder or something in Warhammer, I just wanted to kind of keep it kind of neutral. I didn't want it to look too grim dark. I didn't want it to look too specifically like Star Wars. I wanted to be able to get a lot of use out of them. So you can hit some smaller wall sections. They do look a little bit like concrete too once you get close up, just because of the texture on the foam, but I wasn't too worried about that. Yeah, there's the small airlock with the removable door. It turned out pretty good for some cheap styrofoam and some basic spray paint, and of course the larger airlocks. Ended up doing 2 of each just so I'd have some versatility if I'm going to set up different rooms and corridors. It'll just be something easy and quick I can slap down on the table and not have to worry about floor sections. Especially with the Star Wars role-playing game, you don't really use a grid. I did put some wood screws in the bottoms just to give them some weight so they wouldn't tip over very easily. And as you can see on those long sections, I added some buttresses out of some other foam scraps. But you can see how you can just kind of throw this down, just kind of press them together. I thought about putting magnets in them to make them line up a little better or make them click together. But then I thought, I want to be a little more versatile. I don't want to limit myself to only being able to connect them certain ways. So I ended up not doing the magnets. I can just set them down however I want to. So if I want to change the arrangement real quick, or if I want to make an odd-shaped room with an offset or an alcove, I can do it without worrying about where the magnets are, or without putting way too many magnets in there. I know this angle isn't the best. You can't see the whole thing, but you get enough to get the idea. Here's a better shot. Forgive me for the shaky cam. Hopefully that's not too shaky. Won't give anybody any motion sickness. But you can see the larger set there. You can really set it up and have a pretty large area. It's not a whole lot of pieces, but it's enough to give me enough to work with. I can make some pretty good sized rooms, pretty good sized corridors with it. And of course there's the pyramid. You'll see in a second here why I left those gaps between the 2 levels. Just an added little feature. Turn the light out. And I think you can see the glow there. I got some LED lights to put underneath there. Actually, this one's got different color settings. You can do green, blue, red, or just white. You could even get it to sort of pulse between the different colors, but I just left it on green so you could kind of get an idea of the effect. Just something a little extra, and of course it only turns up in low light conditions, but nice little effect I was happy with. So there you have it. Pretty simple project. If you liked the video, please like and subscribe. If you didn't like the video, please like and subscribe. Tell your friends, tell your coworkers, tell your neighbors, and join me next time in the Fortress of Filitude.